When we were getting a divorce, my ex-husband wanted to fight for custody of our son. He confidently said, "Why don't we ask him what he thinks?" My son was holding his phone and looked at me calmly. "Really planning to divorce?" "Yes." I nodded. "Okay then." He lowered his head and continued playing the game. "I'll go with my mom. Divide more property to her, or I'm afraid she won't be able to support me." The son was pulled into the study by his father. I hesitated and wanted to follow, but the door slammed shut in front of me. A harsh voice came from inside. "Joe Ruiz, I'm asking you again, are you really going to follow your mother?" "Dad, it doesn't really matter who I follow. The main reason is that my Lynn aunt is pregnant now, and I don't want to affect her mood if I follow you." The mention of his own misdeeds by his son probably made even the thick-skinned Joe Ruiz feel a little embarrassed. The voices inside grew softer. I couldn't hear what they said later, but I felt a damp, itchy sensation on my face. I reached out to wipe it, but the tears flowed more and more. I sat numbly on the sofa in the living room, finally unable to hold back, and buried my face in my hands. I didn't know how long it had been before the study door was reopened. Joe Ruiz walked up to me, looking at my tear-stained face with a hint of reluctance. He handed me a tissue and said slowly, "Ruiz will follow you." I raised my tear-streaked face. "The car and the house are for you, plus another 500,000. If you agree, we'll go to the office tomorrow to process the paperwork." I looked at him blankly. To be honest, it was me who had been shouting for a divorce. But how this divorce would be handled, I actually had no idea. "The car is better left to her," Joe Ruiz suddenly said. I snapped out of my daze, and a wry smile twisted my lips. After all, it's father and son at heart. My mother's driving skills are better left to her. It's a waste to leave it idle, and it's a crime to drive it. It's better to give her the cash. "Your car is worth at least 780,000, so I'll give you 1 million for the house." "I think it's quite reasonable," Joe Ruiz said, looking at. The door was closed. My heart clenched in response. With Joe Yuji's departure, it was possible that he would never return. I had started dating him in college. The love of youth was sincere and pure. I had thought we would support each other until old age. But I had no idea how we would end up in this situation. "Mom," Joe Ruiz's voice pulled me out of my sadness. "I'm hungry. Did you cook anything?" I quickly got up and wiped my tears. "I'll go buy some groceries." There was a hint of resentment in his voice. "Mom, you're about to have $1 million. Can't you treat me to a meal at a fancy restaurant?" I took Joe Ruiz to the barbecue restaurant on the lower floor. He wrapped a piece of 5-flavor pork in lettuce and handed it to me. "Mom, this is a buffet. You have to eat more to make up for it," he said. Oh, I took it and put it in my mouth, but it tasted like wax and I couldn't swallow it. Thinking of the words about the psychological shadow that parents' divorce can cause on children on the internet, I carefully spoke. "Son, your dad and I are going to get a divorce, but he is still your father. I hate him, but you shouldn't hate him." "I don't hate him," he flipped the chicken wings. "You shouldn't hate him either. Hating someone is tiring." He sat opposite me, and the thick smoke made it hard for me to see his face clearly. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, lost in thought, when Joe Ruiz came knocking on my door. "Mom, it's time, Let's go, he said. I suddenly came to my senses. How do I feel that, regarding our divorce, he seems to be more impatient than his father? I opened the door and looked at him suspiciously. Why haven't you gone to school yet? He looked at me with a complex expression. Mom, today is July 1st, it's summer vacation, he said. I had been in a daze for over a month and had forgotten that he was on vacation. I felt guilty and straightened his collar. I'm sorry, son, I said. He tilted his head and smiled. If you really feel guilty, take me on a trip. Let's go to the beach and go diving and eat seafood, he said, raising his hand and making a yeah gesture. Sure, I couldn't help but smile. It seemed that some of the gloom in my heart had been dispelled. Linyu came with Zhou Yushi. We haven't even divorced yet, and she can't wait to move in? Zhou Rui's greeted her proactively. Hey, Lin Auntie, it's so hot outside, why are you still running around? Be careful not to melt my little brother, he said. You. Linyu glared at him unhappily and twisted her body, wanting Zhou Yushi to back her up. Zhou Rui's quickly explained. Dad, I didn't mean anything else. I'm really worried about my little brother in this 40 degrees Celsius weather, he said. Zhou Yushi looked at Linyu coldly and said to her, Go to the car and wait there, don't come in. We submitted an application for divorce. Next, there was a 1-month cooling off period. Zhou Kai drove over in his car, stopping us. I'll drive you back, he said. I was about to refuse, but Zhou Rui's took a step forward and opened the car door. Mom, hurry up and get in. I'm about to melt, he said. I had no choice but to follow him. We sat in the back seat, with the familiar position in the front taken by Linyu. She pulled Zhou Kai's arm and cooed, Husband, where shall we go to celebrate? Zhou Rui's leaned over. Lin Aunt, how about little Jiangnan? Dad loves the food there, and he used to take me and Mom there whenever something good happened, he said. In the rearview mirror, I saw Linyu's face stretch tighter than a donkey's. Although it wasn't very nice, I couldn't help but feel a little gleeful. Zhou Rui's leaned back and continued to push. Mom, where shall we go on our trip? Let's not go to the beach this time. How about going to Lijiang? They say Lijiang is the capital of chance encounters, and who knows, maybe we'll find another dad there, he said. Zhou Kai's face also looked a bit grim. Thinking of going on a trip? He asked, looking at me in the rearview mirror. Yes, I replied. I didn't want to talk to him, so I turned my head to look at the scenery outside. It's good to go on a trip to relax, he said, as if talking to himself. But Lijiang isn't very interesting. How about going to Sanya? One of my friends opened a hotel in Haitang Bay, he said. Zhou Rui's leaned over again. Sure, Dad. Can we use our faces to pay? With our similarity, your friend should be able to recognize us at a glance, he said. Zhou Kai smiled and reached out to pat Zhou Ru. I went to Sanya with Zhou Rui's in the end. According to his words, it's a shame not to take advantage of a bargain, you son of a bitch. He was in high spirits and made a 3-page itinerary. I didn't want to be a spoilsport mother, so I tried to stay alert and accompany him. A boy of 13 or 14 is full of energy. I went paragliding, surfing, and diving with him during the day, and went to the night market with him at night to catch sand crabs. I was exhausted after a whole day. I fell asleep on the bed immediately, not even thinking about my post-divorce sadness. After returning from Sonia, I wanted to take a break. However, he commented on my cooking again. Mom, you make these dishes, they're not bad to eat, but they lack variety. I glared at him. You've been eating the food I make for so many years, and now you're complaining? He scratched his head and laughed sheepishly. It's not that I'm complaining. It's just that I'm a bit tired of it. If you could add more variety, I would definitely eat myself to 1.88 meters tall. Get lost. I slapped his face and laughed. After all these days, I've finally figured it out. This kid is finding ways to annoy me, but it's just to keep me busy and not have time to feel sad. My ability to choose a husband may not be very good, but the child I gave birth to is a treasure. What's there to be sad about? I am going to look for a job. Although Zhou Yuji promised me 1 million yuan and promised to pay the monthly child support on time, but in fact, 1 million yuan is not much to use. Just Zhou Rui's annual tuition fees are more than 200,000 yuan. Let alone the daily expenses. If we sit and eat the mountain, it won't take long for the mountain to be eaten up. As a housewife for over a decade, my job skills have almost disappeared. I thought, maybe I should start with an easy job to get started, and then change it later. I told Zhou Rui's about my idea. After all, if I go out to work, I may not have as much time to take care of him. He thought for a moment and said, if you want to go out to work, of course I support you. But finding a job is like finding a partner. You have to plan and act after you have made up your mind. Hearing his little adult-like words, I laughed out loud and couldn't help teasing him. Have you ever found a partner? How is it the same? He argued earnestly. You just say, if you settle for the first one carelessly and then meet a better one later, do you split or keep wasting time? I thought about it, and it was actually true. If I take a job carelessly and then meet a better one later, it would be troublesome to take time off for interviews. Zhou Rui's advised me patiently. Finding a job doesn't have to be in a hurry, but there is one thing that is quite urgent. What's that? I asked him. Stop my tutoring class. No way. I rejected it firmly. Mom, he wailed. For subjects a day, I'm your son, not a donkey in the production team. After friendly negotiations, we decided to cancel the supplementary classes for Chinese and English, while temporarily retaining the math and physics subjects. We will consider further adjustments if there is any progress. Hooray for Mom! Zhou Rui's happily ran around me twice, and even volunteered to do a set of English exercises. Our lives are slowly getting back on track. That day, I was placing an order on a link sent by my girlfriend Ningning. Zhou Rui's came over to look at it for a while, then suddenly asked me, can Aunt Ningning make money from this? Well, it's okay, I replied casually as I paid for the order. He grabbed my hand and looked at me with bright eyes. Mom, I think you'd be good at this, he said. My heart skipped a beat. Ningning is always perceptive, and she did very well in e-commerce in the past few years. This time, she has switched to a newly launched social group buying platform. Although there are not many users yet, the shopping method is convenient, and the dissemination channels are flexible. The development prospect should be very good. The most important thing is that there is a one-click help selling function, which does not need to consider the source of goods, and is the most suitable for newcomers like me to operate. Sure, I'll go and learn from your Aunt Ningning, I said. If I have to summarize what I have gained from my decade-long life as a housewife, the most important thing is my skills in purchasing goods. I am quite particular when it comes to buying things, not only paying attention to the price, but also having high requirements for quality. I often compare products from 3 stores and make a careful choice. So my friends always ask me for recommendations when they want to buy something. As Joe Ruiz said, this platform is indeed very suitable for me. With the help of Ning Ning, my store was soon set up. I control the quality of the products I help sell very strictly, and only open for sale after I have tried them and found them satisfactory. Therefore, although I stood there for a long time. Although I had initiated the divorce, I guess he had had such thoughts for a long time. Otherwise, how could he have picked on me and shown disdain for me in every aspect? Moreover, Lin Yu's belly was getting bigger and bigger, which must have been urging her on. His sudden move caught me off guard. Why? I asked. Zhou Yu's eyes darted away, and after a long pause, he spoke slowly. I can't bear to part with our family. My thoughts were a bit hazy. In the early years of Zhou Yu starting a business, he often had to travel. Every time before he left, he would hold me and kiss the baby's little face. Wife, I can't bear to leave you and the boy. I'll come back home as soon as I finish what I need to do there. When did he start not wanting to come home? Perhaps seeing my relaxed expression, he sat closer and held my hand. Wife, can we not argue anymore? Don't you want your son to have a father? I pulled my fingers away from his hand and looked at him with a hint of sarcasm in my eyes. Zhou Yu, it was you who did the wrong thing, and it was also you who didn't want to pay the price. How can there be such logic in the world? There must be something fishy when something unusual happens. I asked a friend to check on Zhou Yu's current situation. I was shocked when I found out. Zhou Yu runs a trading company. In other words, he makes profits by buying and selling goods through channels. A batch of goods purchased by Lin Yu was found to be fake half a month ago. The supplier upstream ran away. The downstream customers refused to accept the goods and demanded compensation for all losses. It is said that Zhou Yu had to use all his savings to fill the hole. Now, he can hardly afford to spend even 10,000 yuan. He came to me for a reconciliation this time, not only to avoid paying the 1 million yuan, but also to have his eyes on this house. We live in a school district house, which is worth at least 5 to 6 million yuan according to the current market price. I don't know what Zhou Ruiz said to him during the divorce. Maybe he still has a little bit of insignificant remorse for us mother and son. Or maybe he was doing well in business at that time and didn't care about the money. The divorce agreement was signed smoothly. But now that he is in trouble, these assets have become his lifeline. He just wants to hold them in his own hands. However, the lover he had made a mess of things, and now he wants to take advantage of his ex-wife. How can it be that easy? After the cooling-off period, I was supposed to apply for a divorce certificate. But I have been unable to contact Zhou Yu. I think it is deliberately dragging. The follow-up process cannot go on. I was bored to death when a delivery arrived. Inside is a U-disc, stored Zhou Yu derailed evidence. There are videos of him and Ms. Lin cuddling on their way to the hotel, screenshots of their explicit chats. There are even records of such transfers, 520, 1314. I took a picture and sent it to Zhou Yu. If the divorce agreement fails, I can still go through the proceedings. After a while, Zhou Yu's phone called. Wife, are you really so cruel? We are more than 10 years of feelings, can it be said that no now? There was a rare heavy rain today. I was standing at the intersection downstairs when the call came in. The wind roared me in every direction. I said softly, Zhou, it was you who destroyed our relationship first. There was no sound from the other end. Zhou finally came to get the divorce certificate. That day, he came alone, without Lin Yu. The whole person looks very haggard. I heard that his trading company has no working capital on its books and is almost out of business. However, the early payment of suppliers must be paid, and the wages of employees must not be delayed. I guess he's got a lot on his plate by now. When we parted, he held me back. Wanqing, let's have dinner together. I was about to decline when I heard him say urgently, even if you are separated, you can still be friends, not even have a meal together? I know him too well, so low posture, it is not an old memory, I guess there is something to say. I nodded. We found a random restaurant near the civil affairs office. After sitting down, he kept turning the glass, as if he was about to speak. I didn't want to waste any time, so I just started. Zhou, tell me what you have to say. He paused for a moment, then said cautiously, can you put off for a while the $1 million I promised you? Don't worry, I won't break my promise, but... Yes. I interrupted him. Wanqing. He reached out to take my hand. I drew back quietly. I agreed to defer the payment for 1 year, but at a rate of 10%, according to the market. In addition, I want to get the goods from your company as a special dealer. You can rest assured that I will pay the money on time. Before, Ningning always said that high-quality goods are not easy to find, either the price is too high or the quality is not good. She said this just when Zhou Ruizhi heard. The Dodger blinked his eyes and said to us, Aunt Ningning, I know where to meet your needs. It's a snooze meeting, a pillow. I was still trying to figure out how to talk to Zhou about this, but he came to me by himself. After all, to become a special dealer of their company, that is to take millions of goods to qualify. Zhou probably did not expect that I would negotiate with him, froze for a while, and then said with a bitter smile, You're not quite the same you used to. Zhou. I interrupted him again. I know what he's trying to say. I used to be full of him and the baby. Put a good job, don't just want to dedicate to the family, to the old. Young people have a brain for love. Middle-aged, abandoned women like me only look at pros and cons. I raised my glass and touched him. Boss Zhou, I hope we can cooperate happily. With the guarantee of supply, I quickly changed from helping to sell to opening a group model. On the one hand, the profits are higher. On the other hand, we can develop our own head of sales to expand sales channels and coverage. Because the platform has just been online, it has received a lot of help and reward mechanisms. I registered a company and hired professional operation, planning, and customer service staff. Although the day is busy, but very full. But Zhou has not been doing so well recently. The supplier who sold him fake goods was caught a few days ago. The man explained that Lin Yu knew from the beginning that there was a problem with this batch of goods. But he took a 20% kickback, so he kept it a secret. Zhou, after rage, in front of the face of the people, fanned Lin Yu a slap in the face. Did not expect Lin Yu standing unstable, stomach hit the corner of the table. resulting in placental abruption. Not only Lin Yu suffered a great crime, the child also died in the abdomen. Heard, this period of time Lin family every day in the company to find Zhou Yu to say. Too scared to go to his office. When Ningning told me about it, her voice was full of schadenfreude. Am I right? Bitches will take care of themselves. I was looking at this month's financial statement and said, just don't interfere with our business. I thought that I and Zhou Yu feelings are not in the sale, and it is very good to live peacefully with each other. But he didn't think so. I was talking to one of their account managers. During this time, the contact has become Zhou Yu himself. In the name of maintaining a relationship with a client, he made frequent overtures to me. I even sent a bunch of flowers to my house on Valentine's Day. It was winter vacation. The flowers were collected by Zhou Ruiz, who looked at me strangely. Mom, are you in love? I walked by the living room and pulled out the card and the flower. The flower is endless, the month is infinite, the two hearts are the same. This is what Zhou Yu wrote on the card when he sent me flowers for the first time. Unfortunately, the flowers in front of the court faded, and when the clouds rolled, things changed. I threw the flowers in the trash with the card. Zhou Ruiz stood quietly for a while, then suddenly said, Mom, does my dad want to make up with you? I thought about it, and it was time to have a talk with him. Take his hand and sit down on the couch. Son, you may think your mother is selfish, but your father and I really can't go back to the past. He took my hand in his back and grinned at me. I'm glad you feel that way. You must always remember that you are yourself first and my mother second, and nothing is more important than your own happiness. I covered my mouth, fighting back tears. With the support of my son, I was ready to find an opportunity to make it clear to Zhou Yu. I asked him to meet me at a restaurant near my house. When we left, Zhou Ruiz insisted on going with me. I couldn't beat him, so I took him with me. This is the first time I took the initiative to ask Zhou Yu after my divorce, and he seemed to dress up deliberately. Wearing the shirt and shoes I bought him. With a bouquet of roses in her hand. Seeing us come in, he came forward excitedly. Wanqing, Ruiz, you've come. Zhou Ruiz looked at him and joked. Well, Dad, you haven't been feeling so well lately. When I go out with my mother, people say she is my sister, and I want to go out with you. I'm afraid people will think you are my father. Zhou Yu smiled awkwardly. Your mother, she does get younger. Zhou Ruiz nodded and said in his old age. So this person still has to be disciplined. If he can't control himself, it's too late to regret. Dad, you say that's the truth? Zhou Yu could not even smile. Zhou Ruiz ordered a few dishes that he and I liked to eat, and sat next to me ready to play mobile phone. I gave him a cool look, and he quickly put his phone back. He smiled. I don't play games, just look at the message sent by the teacher in the group. Only one play. Oh, Mom, I love you. Seeing my interaction with my son, Zhou Yu's eyes turned red. Wipe a tear, desperately give us food. It's been a long time since we've sat down to eat together as a family. I put down my chopsticks and sighed. Zhou Yu, we. A figure burst out. Take the soup from the table and throw it at me. My son quickly stepped in front of me, boiling hot soup falling on his chest and arms. The exposed skin quickly turned red. Lin Yu scolded hysterically. Su Wanqing, can you point your face so like to seduce other people's men? How is it? Does it hurt? Does it burn? I didn't care about Lin Yu, nor did I care about other people's strange eyes. Flustered to check Zhou Ruiziai's body. Mom, I'm okay. Zhou Ruiz quickly soothed me. Fortunately, the soup has been placed for a while, and the skin is not serious except for some redness and swelling. I was relieved. Zhou Yu has pulled Lin Yu apart. Lin Yu, what is wrong with you? I have finished with you, and the money that should compensate you has been given to your parents. What else do you want? Lin Yu's face became worse and worse. What's the use of losing money? My children are gone, how can your family be happy? I was about to turn to contradict her when I saw a silver flash in her hand. I subconsciously stopped in front of Zhou Ruizai. A pang of pain came. Vaguely see Zhou Ruiz lift up his feet, while Lin Yu kicked out. My consciousness is fading. Before I passed out, an inexplicable thought crossed my mind. It is true that I have learned Taekwondo for so many years, and this money is worth more than making up lessons. I don't know how long I slept. In a daze, I heard Zhou Ruizai nagging in my ear. Without your son's skill, don't try to be brave. I have a lot of homework to write here, but also have to take care of you in the hospital. You say, wake up, how to compensate me? At least let me play mobile phone for 3 days. I guess the word playing with my phone struck a nerve. I sat up, akimbo, and shouted angrily. Zhou Ruiz, dare to play and try, your courage is fat. He stood in front of me with a smile, like a sly little fox. The nurse came in with a tray. Wake up? 24 bed, pay attention not to lose too much weight in the future. This blood sugar is low into what? Huh? What weight loss? What low blood sugar? I shyly avoided Zhou Ruizai's eyes. He looked at me with a half smile. If your blood sugar wasn't so low, she could have knocked you out with a blunt fork? I held on to my last shred of dignity. I was in a hurry, you don't know. As the saying goes, a gentleman does not stand under dangerous walls. After this incident, I dare not have any involvement with Zhou Yu anymore. Exactly 1 year is coming up. I asked my lawyer to send him a reminder. I'm not afraid he won't pay me back, because I have more than $1.1 million in unpaid debt. The money will arrive soon. I asked my colleagues in the company to draft a written notice not to renew the contract and check the accounts and goods. Because of good reputation and good service, it has seized the outlet of the platform just launched. My business is going from strength to strength. Many suppliers, even manufacturers, have contacted me directly asking for supplies. Even if there is no regular supply, it does not affect me at all. On the contrary, if he loses a big client like me, it might be even harder. He called me 1,000,000 times. I was so annoyed that I put him on a blacklist. He came to me. But I have taken advantage of the last few days of the holiday, with my son went to Lijiang to play. When I was about to board the plane, I got a call from Lin Yu. Before she began to scold, I opened my mouth. Lin Yu, you and I have never been in competition with each other. Think about it, who did this to you? There was a long silence on the other end. Then came the sound of the hang-up. They may have a long story, but what does that have to do with me? I just want them to stay together forever. The new semester began. I went to Zhou Rui's parents' meeting. The teacher reported the final ranking of last term. His achievements belong to the type of no less than 1,000 students in the grade. He hovers between 300 or 400 students all year round. But this time, it took me by surprise. He broke into the top 200 of his grade. In particular, I stopped making up the Chinese subject and actually achieved the third result in the class. The head teacher said to me, "This kid has good qualifications. If he can work harder, he will have no problem getting into this high school." I was so excited that I held the teacher's hand and thanked him again and again. When I came out of school, I was a little giddy. Joe looked at me with disdain. "Mother, will you do something? Next time I make the first 100, will you faint with joy?" I smiled. "Then it is worth it for me to faint." "Your mother, I have nothing to hope for in this life. I only hope that you have a good future and live a happy life." He stood before me and looked at me disapprovingly. "Mom, you have a long life ahead of you. I want to be your pride, but I don't want to be your only pride." I looked up at him. The face is clear, the figure is tall. The little boy has long since grown up. I couldn't help but be relieved. "Son. Mom, I also want to start my wonderful life."